You're listening to Bold Calling, a podcast presented by Orem, where every episode we're bringing on the biggest and brightest minds in the tech and sales industries for a discussion about their biggest challenges and the unique ways they're working to solve them. I'm your host, Adam Sokol, and today I'm joined by Chris Cicconi, a person who, according to LinkedIn, wears many, many hats, but I'm going to focus on the fact that you are the head of business development at Unicorn. So first off, Chris, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Getting introduced as one of the biggest and brightest of anything I will absolutely take. Loudest and most obnoxious would typically be what I'd be expecting. So I will take that. Compliments will get you everywhere, Adam.
I can tweak the edit if you need me to. In post, I can make sure I'll talk to our editors. We'll add those in there
perfect.
As well.
Perfect. Those are better qualifiers.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first season of our podcast, Bold Calling, we are talking about the things that are stressing out our guests and the ways you're working to solve them. That'll be the second segment. The first segment, I want to hear about your background, how you got to be where you are today. So just walk me through kind of your career and how you came to be the head of, kind of business development, sales development at Unicorn.
Yeah, so it's been an adventure in the best of ways, of course. So if anybody actually checks out my education on my LinkedIn profile, I studied kinesiology with a specialization in athletic therapy. So in my head, I'm going to follow professional sports teams and I'm going to be on the sideline. It's going to be the best job ever. And then I forgot for a second that I live in Canada where there are 8 professional sports teams. And even though there aren't a lot of athletic therapists, it wasn't quite going to line up for me. So, I asked myself, what else can I do to actually, get paid? And
I was just going to say, not to cut you off, but a few things when I'm laughing. Because one, I went to graduate school for sports marketing, and I have used that exactly 0 times in my 15-year content career. I'm also and I'm laughing as well because you talked about wanting to be connected to athletic teams, and people who watch the video version of this will see this, but you are wearing a Montreal Expos hat, which I just, as a baseball fan, huge baseball nerd, so much respect for that. And I was wondering, it was honestly the moment you got on, I was like, I need to find a way to talk about the Montreal Expos hat. So just the fact that you're not only are there not many teams in Canada, but you're wearing a hat of one that no longer exists.
That is correct. I'm a huge baseball fan as well. Was a bigger one when the Expos were still around. Got to be at their last game. It was a very, very tragic moment. It was right around that time where my friends and I all started getting cars. We were able to get to the stadium and stuff. They weren't doing well attendance wise, so they had $5 games where you get a ticket for $5 and $1 for a hot dog. So we would just line up and have a dozen hot dogs and watch some baseball. So near and dear to my heart are the Montreal Expos.
I live in Cleveland. I'm a huge Cleveland Guardians, formerly Cleveland Indians fan. We happen to be having a magical season where right now attendance is very, very up. But a normal season in Cleveland, you could get tickets very, very easily. So I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to stop on a baseball tangent because this could be an hour of baseball. Yeah. I apologize. I cut you off. You're good. Going to school to be involved in athletics, found out that would be challenging, and 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, so I was like, well, what else can I do? And throughout my university days, I worked part-time at a sports store, which led to probably part of my love of shoes, which is another tangent I could go on, but we'll skip that one for today. So I was like, well, I can sell things, I guess. And then I interviewed for all the really crummy sales jobs, the no base salary, 100% commission, or the here's a phone book, good luck. And I'm in these interviews dude, I have never taken a single business class in my entire life. I need more training than here's a phone book. So I got lucky. Actually, I won't say I got lucky. I got referred by a friend of my sister's who worked at Aerotech, which is the staffing company. And their whole mantra was, we're going to hire people straight out of school. We just want people with the right attitude, driven, go-getters. We'll train them. We'll teach them the rest. We'll develop them. And that was my in, and I had a wonderful mentor, first boss. Everybody there was amazing at just helping me get kind of up and running. So that is where I first fell in love with the developmental aspect of hiring junior folks and kind of bringing them along. Then I very quickly saw some success and got dumped into a brand new division that didn't exist in Canada. So I got to start building stuff, which was also a blast. And that's where I kind of developed my second love. And this will be relevant, I promise, as we go forward. But I did that for about 10 years and I was like, you know what, this is cool. It's like, it was full cycle sales. It was a lot of leadership. I very quickly had direct reports and it was a lot going on. And I thought, you know what, not that I don't love what I'm doing, but it would be cool to just explore a different option or a different direction and just see what else is out there in the world. Cause all I've done is pretty much staffing, and through my network got referred into an HRIS company. So I was the first salesperson hired there to again, kind of do that, build, develop, figure out the process, the messaging, all that good stuff. And I was still selling to HR, living in that same world. So that was fun too. We did that for a couple years. And then I realized that moving on to the SaaS side, when I didn't have a SaaS background at all, was again, challenging. And I probably could have used a bit of help. And so I got an opportunity to move into an SDR leader role. I had a larger organization where I would have, some coaching and mentorship and development and all that kind of stuff. And that's where it started all coming together, that like, hey, somebody gave me that opportunity at this point, like 10 years ago, to get into the sales world. As an SDR leader, like I get to do exactly that. I get to hire junior folks, especially at that time, like pandemic-ish time where money was cheap and SDRs were getting hired left, right, and center. It was, find people with great attitudes and teach them the rest. And, seeing people go and get promoted and become account executives and become CSMs and move to other organizations, and like watching them see success was so much fun. So did that. The other thing that was fun about it was kind of my creative aspect got to come out a little bit. So, get to, obviously you're doing the email and the call stuff, but got to be a lot more active on LinkedIn, started doing more video, started using direct mail and gifting and all kinds of different stuff. And I was like, well, this kind of makes sense. So, from there, it turned into me getting laid off at the end of last year, and started us working with another startup in Montreal that turned out the company already had no money left when they hired me. And
Perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. Didn't get paid for like 2 months. Great times. And the founder was obviously very driven to want to sell. So decided, hey, you need to hire more salespeople. I was like, buddy, I'm not getting paid. I'm not going to hire more salespeople. So I thought to myself, like, maybe we go look at an outsourcing type of sales organization that can support us. And, that way we're paying an invoice and not somebody's salary. It makes a bit more sense. And that's where I got introduced to the gentlemen of Unicorn, Zach Walker and Chris Ray, who I'd like met in passing through LinkedIn and chatted with them a bit. And went back and forth. And then I called them up one day. I'm like, look, guys, I appreciate everything, you've done, you've walked me through, but like, we can't move forward with this. We're not going to be able to pay you. Like at the end of the day, I haven't even gotten paid. And they're like, you're not getting paid? Why don't you come here and not get paid instead? It's like, that's the worst sales tactic ever, but it worked. So here I am, because again, it kind of paints everything together where I get to work with startups and founders every day. I get to get creative with their messaging, test stuff out, get out in front of different folks. So it really builds like that networking side, that building side, that hiring, developing, training side. So I get to touch on all those pieces. So it's kind of how it all came to be, in a very, zigzag sort of path. But yeah, I love what I'm doing right now. It's all fractional stuff, which is why you probably see the 14 different titles on my LinkedIn. But then, it's cool too, because it is fractional, that I do get a little bit of leeway to do some advising on the side and do some coaching for folks, whether that's LinkedIn or sales coaching and stuff like that. So I get to mix it up, keeps it fun, keeps it creative and different. So I'm in a real great spot right now.
Well, and I would have to imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I have only been at one place at a time, but working for a startup now with Orem, and the company I was at before this was called Pluralsight, where we had more marketers than we have employees here at Orem. Like we had, I think, almost 300 marketers at the time, and it was very corporate-y and like everything had to go through a million different steps for good reasons, but still, it really put your creativity in a box. And here we get to try weird stuff, see if it works, see if it doesn't. Like we're gonna have a LinkedIn giveaway that'll come out like the day or two after we're recording this. That will be very, very weird. That maybe it'll work. Maybe it will. Who knows? But we can try those types of things. I have to imagine what we're realizing as we try these different things is very similar to like what I feel like from a sales development standpoint, like being omni-channel and like going at prospects from different routes to see what interests them, what approach will work. Like I have to imagine being fractional and getting to work in all these different spaces, like that probably not only scratches that creativity itch, but I feel like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming it kind of makes you a better seller and leader overall, right?
I would like to think so, but I'm probably a bit biased here. Yeah, no, it is, and it's so interesting because I think to your point, getting to try different things with different organizations is really fulfilling because you can also take some of those learnings and apply them into different spots as well, right? Like, hey, this worked over here, but there's also this worked. Why did this work? What did we do there that's special? How do I recreate that kind of special sauce somewhere else? So you get a lot of different learnings, you get exposed to a lot of different things. And the other part that's fun is from a fractional perspective, in a world where if they hired me, I would maybe be like an individual or have maybe one person on my team or something. But like now I have a pool of people that I can go to and say like, hey, we're working something in higher education. Who has experience here? Oh, great. 3 people raise their hands. Perfect. Let's get together and chat about what is unique about a higher ed. Oh, they don't live on LinkedIn. Oh, they hate when you call their cell phones. Okay, cool. Let's pivot and do this differently. Maybe we look for events. Maybe we look for direct mail. Like let's figure out different ways of doing things. So yeah, from a creativity perspective, it's so much fun because you get to try different things and iterate different things. The beauty of startup world though is you do all of that with no money. So that's the fun part. What do this? Yes. Does it cost anything? No. Perfect. We're in.
Perfect. Yeah. I do want to ask you though, you talked about a little bit ago, you basically said like not only just seeing what things work, but figuring out the why behind why they work. And that is something that was the benefit of working at a large company is like we had a market research team. So forget just like doing a survey with Qualtrics. Like I could go to our market research team and be like, what's the why behind this answer? And that's something we're working through right now here at Orem is like, we do lots of things and we have tools that we really, really love, like Dream Data and Mutiny and Warmly and all these other tools that do help us uncover like, okay, here's the content people are looking at, and here's the why, and here's how it's actually leading to ROI and things like that. But it takes so much time. It takes so much time to figure out the why. So I'm curious for you, working at various startups and having, like you said, next to no resources, how do you uncover like the why and how it's behind what's working?
So here is the fun part, and I'm going to explain what I do, and I'm going to give everybody the recommendation that regardless of where they're at or how big their organization is, you should probably try doing this. So the beauty of being in the startup world and having limited resources and tooling to try and figure all this out is you literally just have to talk to people and ask them. But working with startups a lot of the time, and again, we're talking early stage for the most part, or maybe they've done some founder-led sales or looking to make that transition to, a little bit broader, more scaled, is like product market fit's not quite there. Maybe the product isn't fully developed either. So like reaching out to folks and being like, hey, Adam, saw you attended the webinar. I would love to just pick your brain about what you thought. I'm not trying to sell you anything, nothing like that. But like people are very receptive to that. So all of a sudden, like I'm on the phone with people in my ICP and I'm chatting with them about stuff. And then, pitching like, hey, do you want to just take a look at the product and give me your 2 cents, like 30 minutes, just give me your feedback. I'm not trying to sell you anything. If you don't want it, no problem. But then, take a look. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, I could see where this could fit in. Or I know somebody who's talked to me about something like that. So it's so hard because especially in like, I realize I'm talking to, somebody at Orem where they've got a dialer and a power dialer and like you can push volume, but sometimes taking a step back and slowing down is so important because you really do get to like, hey, I get proper feedback about who would be interested in this. What's the value in it? Is the product like fully baked? Is it missing a bunch of stuff? Like where are we at? And those natural conversations can really progress just the momentum forward that you're looking to drive to start, closing some deals, especially in an early stage world.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things that we're really proud of here, like you said, we have a power and a parallel dialer and we have a click to call option. But like one of the things we impart upon every customer that we work with, and we're fortunate there's over 1,000 customers at this point that use our platform, is exactly what you said about like slowing down. We are so maniacal about like, you need to have the right data. You need to have proper lists so that when your rep calls, like you said, we try to really minimize the amount of times anyone is using Orem just to like spray and pray. Like we want you to have a list where you can say exactly what you're putting. Like, hey, we saw that you attended our bold calling live webinar, or like, hey, we know that like you not just were at this event we were at, but like we remember you came to our booth, you took a photo in our like London phone booth, you got one of our yellow Orem banana phones. Like, would love to have a conversation. And like to your point, basically being like, trying to figure out your needs though, and see if we can help you. And I do think as I'm creating content more and more for sales professionals, what I have found is like this space is really sellers get like a bad rap about like attitude and how they approach their day. Like, yes, we all like to make memes and jokes about how bad everything is, but like when you have a genuine conversation with somebody, like exactly your point, like not only will they give you genuine and honest feedback about your stuff, but they'll tell you like their needs and the things that they're going through. And they'll talk about platforms that they've tried and experienced and liked and didn't like. And like, I just feel like it does really benefit you, like you said, to slow down and be willing to have those conversations. I'm curious about your, like from a time blocking standpoint, like how do you focus on time management with all the things you're doing and finding time to have conversations with people and stuff like this and all the goodness around it?
Yeah, I it's funny. I always quote this leader I had at my first role, and in sales, this was like face-to-face sales. So like driving to meetings and being on the road and all that stuff. And that was also very challenging. When I have a team at the office, I have to drive to meet clients, I have to cold call to book meetings, I have to close deals. It was recruitment, so I had to worry about fulfillment. There was a lot going on. And basically what he told me was between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., if you are not calling clients, meeting with clients, or driving to and from a client meeting, you're not doing your job. A bit extreme, but the truth still falls to, hey, if I need to be talking to a client or if I need to be cold calling or doing any of that stuff, I need to block that out during the day. And that's what I'll do, right? It's like, when do I have to actually interact with humans? I need to pick up the phone, and I will block those times throughout my day. And then everything else can kind of fit in between. And like, I'm not typically going to cold call at 9 a.m. because, and don't get me wrong, there's very easy to tell like where people are, but like if it's skipping every second call because it's 6 a.m. on the West Coast, like that's not practical for me. So I'll set up my block and say like, hey, I'll call typically between 10 and noon. I'll call between 2 and 4. And in between that, I can schedule some of these other things. And then it comes down to which clients do I have to call for? Which clients am I writing messaging for? Which clients am I building tech stacks for? And then how does that slot in based on, again, who do I have to talk to? When do I have to talk to them?
I want to ask kind of the core question of each of these episodes about, what's keeping you up at night. And, we've been talking for the last 15 minutes or so about a variety of things that in theory could be keeping you up and stressing you out. But you strike me as a person who is very excited about the various opportunities, and like you have like the little bit we've got in the chat, like a genuine curiosity and excitement about all of this. But that being said, you are wearing, as I said, many, many hats, not just the Expos one. So what is the thing that is stressing you out most about your job and kind of quote unquote keeping you up at night?
Okay, I'm going to give you two answers. And one is going to be the higher level, more philosophical answer that's keeping me up at night. And then the other one will be the more tactical, like day to day, what's actually like stressing me out. I think the thing that is keeping me up at night the most is really reflective of the sales profession as a whole. Because I think, Adam, to what we were talking about before, when we said it is important to slow down and take the time to meet with people and take the time to network and build that out and build out. I was talking to a colleague about building out community and right. And you're doing things today that will hopefully accelerate the future of what you're trying to do. The problem is most people aren't patient enough for that. Most organizations and oftentimes leadership are most certainly not patient enough for that. So a lot of times salespeople, myself included, I've done it a million times over, fall back into that, I don't have time to slow down and have the right conversations and do the right thing. So I'm just going to do more of the wrong things. I'm just going to do more mass email, and I'm going to do more parallel dialing 17 people at a time to blow through lists of 1,000 people in a day. Like, I'm going to do more of that, which is more of the wrong thing, which is more perpetuating this stereotype of salespeople being underprepared, just trying to sell their stuff, don't care about the prospect, don't care about solving problems, don't care about building relationships. That is my biggest thing from a high level philosophical perspective that scares me about sales, because we're going down that path, or back down that path.
Yeah, I want to talk about that before we get to your tactical one, because we've been kicking around a theory on our marketing team around that exact thing, because we're just now getting the data for our 2024 State of Sales Development Report, which is our 2023 one was the first year we did it, and it was very successful. People loved the data we had in there, and we were really interested because 2024 has been, everyone's always like, this year has been so different than everything else. Like, legitimately, 2024 with, the whole AIification of everything and people panicking. Like, we were interested to see what was going on. And what we're seeing is there's all this data that shows that sales development representatives are actually creating less pipeline than they ever have before. In fact, it's not even like the majority, like AEs and CSM and all these other teams are creating more pipeline than SDRs are right now. But at the same time, like, every organization, like the 1,000 organizations we blind surveyed, were like, well, we're planning on hiring a bunch more SDRs in the next 12 months. And it's just like, we asked, they're just throwing money, and we asked them what their top 3 tools are, and they said the phone, which is great. They said social, which makes sense, and they said email. And they're just like, it's exactly what you said. It's like they're just throwing money at the problem, trying to figure it out. And my theory, it's a very long preamble to this, is because sales is so quota based, and it's not only is it like, what have you done for me lately? The moment the quarter ends or the half ends or the year ends, it's no longer what have you done for me lately. It's like, what are you doing for me right now? What's your number right now? And every single, person is beholden to a certain number. And if they don't hit that number, a lot of places are so impatient that they just will kick you to the curb. I think a lot of it has to do with, like, people are so in sales are very afraid to try new things, because what if it doesn't work is a thing that you can't really say in sales. In marketing, especially at a startup, we are fortunate to be able to say, what if it doesn't work, especially if the cost is zero. So our theory is just like, people are afraid to change because they don't want to know what happens if it doesn't work. So they just keep throwing money at it like they always have.
So I'll say something that I don't know where your audience falls in the way of seniority and level in an organization, but I think a lot of it, and I've had this conversation with former leaders of mine, I think in a lot of spots, it's exactly what you said. This is what we know how this works. We hire SDRs, they produce X. We hire twice the SDRs, they produce 2X. Sales isn't math. That's not how that actually works. And the thing is, from a leadership perspective, that's what they did, or that's what they've seen, or that's what's worked for them in the past. So they're doing the same thing where everybody's just protecting themselves. Well, we needed more pipeline. I hired more people. We did more marketing campaigns. We did whatever it is that traditionally would produce that. And then that trickles downward. As an SDR, I'm not producing enough meetings. What do? I make more phone calls. I send more emails. And when I'm talking to my leadership, they go, well, that's what you got to do, right? That's what you do when you're struggling. You make more calls. You send more emails. So everybody's just so happy protecting themselves with the status quo from bottom to top that nobody wants to take that risk and go, hey, I tried something and it didn't work. Or if you do, it has to be so small and so minimally impactful that even if it does work, you could barely tell. I did something, I got an extra meeting. Cool. Is that worth it? Well, who knows?
And then if you, like, from a marketing standpoint, like you said, like, if you have a play to do, like, we're going to focus on our SEO content, or we're going to build a state of sales development report. I have the luxury this year of building out the state of sales development report by being able to show the ROI of last year's. I didn't have that last year. It was a big bet. And salespeople, you can't say, ask me in 6 months if the thing I'm doing today worked. So I like I said, I really do think it's that this has always worked. We don't know what's going to happen moving forward. And that's scary to us all. And I think we're in agreement there. That's the big philosophical one that we can't fix. Let's hear the thing that keeps you up at night that is tactical that you think we can fix.
I think it's the fallout from that first thing that causes me issues in my day to day. So people send more emails. Google goes, you can't do that anymore, right? And so now we have the same issue where it's like, well, I can take the time and I can write a really nicely well-crafted email. And then I press send, and then I get a notification being like, you can't send email to this person. You're like, son of a B, this sucks. And so again, it makes my job more difficult, because when we're selling our services to anybody, now it's not just like, hey, we'll go and like, Unicorn's awesome. We offer everything from RevOps as a service right up to like, we can get you SDRs or closers, whatever. That's cool. But now it's not just we do that. It's like, okay, also you need to buy like 14 other domains and like 2 emails at each. And it's going to cost you not a lot. Domains are cheap. That's fine. But like, I need to explain to you why. And then they go, I don't understand that. That's not a thing I've ever seen. Let's just do it the way we've been doing it. It's fine. Like, it's not fine, but also do I like, where does the line draw where you're like, I have to turn down business because this doesn't make sense anymore, or I'm afraid of negatively impacting what you're doing or your domain or all that stuff. So like, how do we set it up so that we can give our clients the best opportunity to succeed and have them feel really good about that when they're talking to us? So there's like so much more education that goes into it now. And even then you're still kind of rolling the dice going like, I hope you understand where I'm coming from and why I want to do this. And it's not because I want to take your money. It's because I want this to make sense for everybody.
Yeah. So what are the ways that you're working to convince people?
I can I just send out an open ask on this podcast for people to reach out to me and tell me how to do it? The biggest challenge becomes, and again, in the world I'm living in where we're talking to a lot of founders who, again, a lot of times have been very successful with their founder-led sales and made those moves, but it's how do you then scale? And so it's explaining to them that like, you did this really awesome thing in this really small spot of people who sort of know you, got referred to you, connected with you. You didn't have to worry about cold calling all that much. You didn't have to worry about cold email. You didn't have to worry about volume. And now we want to scale that. But the problem is the niche that you found yourself in isn't necessarily representative of what the rest of the market will be for your product, right? Your niche is people who know you. Their industry isn't necessarily as relevant as it would be otherwise. The size of their company isn't necessarily as relevant. I'll take a shot on you because I know you, but typically I would never do this based on the size of my company, the industry, revenue numbers, whatever. So it's like, how do we paint the picture of you've done something great, but also we're going to ignore that for a second because we have to do all of this. So it's really comes down to teaching like, hey, here's the game plan. And like Unicorn's only been around for 7-ish months. So like we don't even have it fully formulated to say that this is exactly what we're going to do. Plus it depends, different industries, different products, all that kind of stuff. So for us, it really comes down to like, let me give you a play-by-play of what this is going to look like and why each of these steps is important. And being able to really do that versus saying like, we can help you out. Here's generally what we do. There is like night and day difference in the results, as well as the patience that the founders have when we're doing that. Because if you don't break it down for folks and you're telling them we're charging you X amount of dollars and like 2 weeks in, they don't have a meeting. They're like, guys, what's going on here? Like I'm spending all this money and you're getting me nothing. Okay. But if you explain to them properly and they fully understand, well, week 1, like we're just setting stuff up. We're not even doing anything. Week 2, we're going to start testing and then we're going to iterate. And this is what it's typically going to look like. And this is what the goal is. This is what a good reply rate looks like. This is what a good connect rate looks like. This is what a good conversion rate looks like. Once they're in the funnel, same thing, each step. So like there's so much iteration occurring that you're like, yeah, the reply rates of our first emails, it's going to suck. Like it is. We don't know what works yet, but we're going to take what does work. We're going to A to Z test it. And then we're going to get better. So like, it really just comes down to breaking things down. And the last thing I'll say about this, and like, I hope I don't offend any founders who listen to this, but founders are very, very smart and very, very good at what they do. But the majority of the ones we deal with, that thing that they do isn't sales. And so it's not always easy to have them take a step back and be like, hey, I'm a dummy in this segment, but I'm brilliant over here. And like being able to separate those two is sometimes challenging because they think they're like, hey, I'm good at this, which means I'm good at all of it.
as you were talking, like the phrase that just jumped out of my mind is like trust is iterative as well. Like we're really lucky here at Orem. Our founder is a salesperson, was like headed up the sales development at Rubrik. Like, so he knows that like, okay, if I'm going to scale this, I need other salespeople, I need product people. Like I can't do all this myself. But like you're right, when there's other founders, when a founder comes on board and like they code a platform themselves, they start doing founder-led sales for several months, they get their initial amount of money, they're like white knuckling that thing. So like their grip is so tight that you like trust is iterative. You have to like slowly release like one finger off at a time and be like, we're going to like exactly what you said. Like we're going to show you in week 1 what is starting to work now and how we're going to, to keep working. Like, I think as people get further and further along in the journey, that's why customer stories are so impactful. That's why network-based selling is becoming more and more impactful, because you can build that initial trust. And then like once you have that initial step where it's like, hey, Chris trusts what we've done so far for them, that's why we wanted to reach out to you. And they're like, okay, I'll give you a shot. And then you at least have that moment. It's a thing we're all feeling and we're all experiencing, is that like, how do we get people to trust us when they're afraid of change because sales is hard?
Totally. And like the way you said that is so perfect, because that's why you have to like really break things down. And it's not because, again, like so many of the founders we deal with are brilliant. And it's not because they're not. It's because you want to be able to build that trust. And if I say, look, week 1, we're going to start sending out emails, we're literally going to accomplish nothing. Like I'm telling you, we're not going to get a reply in week 1. It's just how it is. Like this is how this is going to work. But then you don't get that reply week 1 and they're not phased, because they're like, oh, well, Chris told me it's going to be like this. And the goal is by week 2, like, hey, that's when we're going to start getting our first meetings. And then we're going to ramp up by the end of the month. That month 2 is going to look like this. And when we can start breaking that down, and then to your point, you're building trust every week. Like, oh yeah, okay, nothing's happening, but they told me that. Oh, okay, the next week, hey, we're starting to get something. Okay, cool. Now we're building that trust. And I think to your point, if you're selling through your network, if you're reaching out to people, like you're starting with just a little bit more trust than you would have had otherwise. And if you're cold calling, you're starting from like negative trust, because they're just already pissed off. You're calling them, bugging them, right? So like, how do you build up a little bit of trust in that first couple of seconds? And it is through being properly prepared and knowing what you're going to say and having it be relevant to them. And again, to kind of go back to that first thing, the more people make BS cold calls, send junky emails, the worse you're hurting the reputation of the entire sales world, and you're putting everybody a step back. So that is my rant about the state of sales.
I love this. I love this rant. I love this soapbox we both got to step on together. So I'm right there with you. Let's do a little bit of a less stressful conversation. We can both take a deep breath through our nose. What is for the third round here, for a third segment here? What is the first job you ever had? It can be when you were a kid. It can be, out of college. What was the first job you ever had?
The first job that ever paid me money was actually being a soccer referee.
I assume for like little kids, or what was the experience like?
So at the time I was probably like 14-ish. And so it started with like little kids, and then they're like, oh, well, we're missing a ref here, or we're missing a ref here. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, we've got like these 16-year-olds that like need a ref, so just go do that. And then it was, hey, we have the senior women's league. You want to go do that? And it was an experience where like, I don't want to say I learned how to take rejection, because it wasn't rejection. I just learned how to deal with all sorts of personalities of people who are, different levels of happiness in their life. And they brought that to the soccer pitch. It was fun. I got to run around outside. It was fine.
Yeah, I was going to ask how the parents were, but I imagine when they were younger, probably not so great. But
I always remember this one game. And so the way it worked was because, again, we're on like fields where there are a game starting at 6, at 7:30, 9 o'clock. So like you had to be on time, and sometimes teams would be late, things would happen. So you're like, well, I got to shave 5 minutes off your game. Like, sorry, it is what it is. I always remember this one coach that had this stopwatch around his neck, and I called the game 5 minutes early, which was like on time to start the next game. And he just like lost it. And like going back to the trust is iterative piece, at the beginning of the game, I'm telling you, we are starting 5 minutes late and therefore this is going to happen. And then you just lost it. I'm like, dude, I literally told you what was going to happen. But again, you put like a 15-year-old kid out there with a grown ass adult and that's what's going to happen.
Or what is the worst job you've ever had? You don't have to name names if it's like a organization, but tell me about the worst job you've ever had.
I've been very lucky in my life. I have not had too many jobs that have been like really that bad. The one job I will bring up that I thought was comically bad was I was working, it was right after university when I was trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do with my life. And I was working in a unionized environment. It was in the hospital system here. And the job was actually kind of fun. So basically you were coordinating patient transport. So like from the hospital to their home, from the hospital to a different place, whatever, you're organizing with ambulances, all that fun stuff. It was just how unionized everything was. So I had a 45-minute lunch break. And so I would go and like walk around outside because we were like downtown. It was fun, go have lunch, whatever, come back 5 minutes early. I literally get kicked out of the office. Like, don't come back until you were literally ready to punch back in. Okay, cool. Then there was the filing system, which was you take all the requests you got in a day because, again, they printed them all out because why not? And you would take them, you would roll the papers up into like a tube, you would put a elastic wrap on it, and then you would throw it into a banker's box. And that would have like the month on it. And like that was their filing system. And I was like, dude, if you give me like $5, I can go get separators and we can put this and make this really nice. And they're like, that's not your job. That does not fit into your job description. If you do that, somebody will be very angry at you. Please don't do that. You're just like, guys, like I'm not asking to do anything like crazy above and beyond. Like I'm really just the basics of, being functional at this job. I was like, I couldn't do it. I mean, I lasted 3 months, so I was fairly proud of myself, but just like the level of if you turn the light switch on, you're doing somebody else's job is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, that's terrifying. What is your favorite app for productivity? It could be, Slack, Obama, Monday. Do you have an app that you use from a productivity standpoint that you really like?
I will share what I've recently started using when I got into this fractional world because now I have my like personal calendar and then I have my personal work calendar, and then I have my unicorn calendar, and then every client, I also have an email address and a calendar. So I had like 5 different email addresses and 5 different calendars, and I was very regularly missing things, double booking myself and being late for things. And then I went and I messed around with like every calendar app out there because there's like 1,000 of them. And I landed on, it's called Fantastical. And it's great because I can link all of my stuff together. So it's all in one calendar. It has like a thing to produce Calendly style, like, hey, book a meeting with me here. And it has natural language processing to book meetings. So you can literally type in like, I want to meet with, Adam tomorrow at 1 p.m. And it'll like build out the whole thing. If it knows your email address, it'll throw it in there. I hit the send button and it's done. And I can do it from my phone, from my desktop, whatever. So like tasks are great for that too. Like, hey, remember to do X on Thursday of next week, and it'll just pop it in there as a task.
Super fun. Is amazing. Yeah. Fantastical?
Fantastical. Yep.
Okay. That's awesome. I'll put that in the show notes. How about an app for fun? You have a favorite app you use for fun? Are you a TikTok guy? Are you we've had 2 people already in the first like 6 episodes say the chess.com app, which I wasn't expecting. Do you have a fun app that you enjoy using?
Fun app that I enjoy using. I'll give it a better explanation because just saying Reddit off the top of my head is not like super helpful, but I'm a giant nerd at heart. So anything that I do, like I want to know everything about it. So like I'm a big shoe guy. I'm a big coffee guy. So like I want to go and learn everything I possibly can about that topic. So like I want to know everything there is to know. And so like I would love diving deep into, whatever subreddit exists around like, okay, Jordans, what's coming out? What's worth good money? What collabs are happening? I want to know all of those things. So I will spend like hours just reading stuff and ending up in random rabbit holes about things. YouTube will like be the next one on there. Cause like I've learned how to video edit through YouTube. I have learned how to set up multiple domains through YouTube. I'm trying to learn Clay through YouTube, which is less fun than you'd think it would be. But yeah, like I'm just a giant nerd from that perspective. So anywhere I can like get my learn on, I'm down.
I was laughing because I saw somebody, like, obviously everyone in the sales space is talking about Clay a lot lately, and somebody put a LinkedIn message, like a LinkedIn post the other day that was just like, someone explained Clay to me like I'm 5, and it was just very, like, very, very funny, which I enjoyed. Do you have? I'm actually very interested for this one for you because of the way that your work is set up. Do you have an ideal work day?
No.
Fair answer.
Honestly, my biggest just challenge is the amount of time I need to be on calls or making calls or anything like that. Because I get very, I don't want to say stir crazy. It's not quite the right word because I don't mind working from home, but I'm very much like, okay, I want to work from my couch for an hour. Then I'll work at my desk for a couple hours. Then I'd love to go to Starbucks for an hour and do all of that kind of stuff where I can really break my day down to say, like, I'm going to do focus work here. And then I'm going to go do my calls here and all that. But just the amount of time I have to spend in meetings, on calls, doing that kind of stuff, I just like, I can't do things the way I'd like to. It's really just dominated by like, when do I have to be, on the phone, calling, doing all that kind of stuff. So less than ideal. A day where I get like time to actually eat lunch is usually a nice day. So I'll count that as a win, but I'm also lucky. So my wife is still on mat leave and my daughter's a year old. So if I can take like 15 minutes a couple times throughout the day and go bother them and see how they're doing, like that's usually a pretty good work day for me.
Nice. All right. Last question for you, because we are a phone-led company. I always like to ask, what is a cold call opener that would get you to at least hear a pitch from somebody who called you? Like, what is something someone could say to you that you'd be like, okay, you've got 30 seconds. Go ahead and tell me what you want to know.
I'm like really, really on this relevancy kick. And I think so many people get tied up in like the personalization versus relevancy thing. Like, I'll get messages like, hey, Chris, I saw that you love shoes. Me too. Hey, you want to buy my stuff? I'm like, I don't know. No, I don't. I like, that's actually the opposite. That makes me really angry at you. Like, I don't want to talk to you. But like one of my biggest pieces when I'm doing like new business stuff for Unicorn is I will reach out to founders and say like, hey, I have been a founding account executive 3 times in my career. I know it's really tough. I see that you're hiring for one. Here's why I think there are better alternatives out there. So if you can approach me with something relevant as to what I am doing, whether that involves fractional sales, dealing with founders, dealing with outbound, dealing with the sales development world, like if you can come to me with something relevant as to what I am doing right now, that's great. And I honestly think going back to the networking piece, I have become, because I actually half the time don't know who the right persona is for my clients, like, hey, Adam, you might not be the right person to talk to, but here's why I'm calling. I saw that your company does this thing with AI. I'm offering an AI product. Would you be open to taking a look, or is there somebody better to talk to? Like, if you don't know that you have that like product market fit or I'm the right person to talk to, then just don't tell me that. Just be honest. Have a conversation like we're normal human beings. So like that's my biggest thing. If it sounds like it's a script that you've called and said 4,000 times, then like it's probably not quite going to get me.
That's absolutely perfect. I feel like I could talk to you for another 2 hours, Chris. I really, really loved this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. Like I said at the beginning, I'm used to the qualifications being loud and obnoxious. So like I'm happy to chat about anything, anytime somebody says, hey, you want to come talk with me for a bit? I'm always like, yeah, I'm down. So I appreciate you having me. It was a blast.